This is Margaret Knoll with the League of Women Voters of Portland, and you are watching the Video Voters Guide or listening to our podcast. We are here today to talk with candidates running in the November 5th, 2024 general election. We are grateful for the support of the Carol and Velma Sailing Foundation, the League of Women Voters of Portland Education Fund, the Weiss Foundation, and our media partner, Metro East Community Media. With me is Willy Chotzen, running for Oregon House of Representatives District 46, which is most of central southeast Portland, including the Jade District and Lentz. Welcome, Mr. Chotzen.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for doing this.
Please tell us a little about yourself and why you were running for this position.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Willy Chotzen. I'm a dad of two young children, and I was born down in Ashland, Oregon. And I've really had two careers in my life. I was a public middle school math teacher down in Oakland, California. And then I left that and went to law school and moved back to Oregon, moved to Portland about 5 years ago, where I've been working as a public defender in downtown Portland ever since. And I love both those jobs. I loved helping students learn. I loved helping my clients try to get back on their feet and turn their lives around. But in both cases, I was really helping people succeed despite systems that I think were really stacked against them. And so for a long time, I've thought about how do we build a system where we actually are enabling people to succeed, to fulfill their full potential, instead of just helping one person at a time kind of navigate a system that feels very broken. And specifically as a public defender, for the past 5 years, I've really been on the front lines of our homeless crisis and addiction and mental illness. And I've been trying to get folks into housing when there's no housing and trying to get folks connected to treatment when the wait lists are far too long. And so a lot of the issues that I felt like my community really cared about, I had hands-on experience seeing the problems and seeing what the potential solutions could look like. So I'm an optimist at heart. I don't think everything's perfect the way it is now, but I really believe in our ability together to solve big problems and to make things better. And when I saw an opportunity to make that policy change, to try to make sure that students are able to learn, that people who are struggling are able to get back on their feet, I felt like that was a really great opportunity for me to give back. And it's been a fantastic experience running for office and meeting a lot of really great people along the way.
Thank you. What changes, if any, would you support in the state to address the issue of climate change? And please explain.
Yeah, absolutely. When I think about my kids and I think about the kind of future I want to build for them and for their kids and just for all of our kids and grandkids, for me, climate change and democracy are the two kind of foundational things that we need to get right, that we need to be fighting climate change and we need to be protecting our democratic principles. And if we can do those things, we can build on it. We can make sure we have great schools and jobs and roads and a healthy economy and all of that. But I think that climate change is really as big of a threat as anything that we're currently facing. So we could talk this whole time about initiatives I would support for climate change. I definitely think we need to make sure we're structuring our economy around creating clean jobs. But just to be specific in one way for a moment, in the upcoming Oregon legislative session, transportation is going to be a huge focus. And right now, transportation is the largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions in the state of Oregon and in the city of Portland. And so if we're going to get climate change and climate resilience right, I think it starts with how we build our transportation system. And so trying to make sure that we make sure our communities are connected in ways where people can walk and they can bike and they can roll and they can use public transportation. And those systems are safe and accessible alternatives to driving. That driving is still available, but that it's not the only option for connecting our community is one of my biggest focuses, I think, in the battle to fight climate change.
Thank you. You are listening to the Video Voters Guide interview and podcast of Willy Chotzen, who is running for Oregon House of Representatives District 46. Mr. Chotzen, do you support the elimination or modification of the Oregon kicker? Why or why not?
I do think that something needs to change with the kicker. It's popular and we all love getting money in the mail. That's a fantastic thing. And we also should expect that our government is using our resources as efficiently and as transparently as possible. So I support a lot of the ideals behind the kicker. But what we're seeing is that we need more investment in our schools. We need more investment in our roads and our transportation system. We need more housing supply. We need more behavioral healthcare system and a better behavioral healthcare infrastructure. And I don't see the way to do those things without some source of revenue. And for me, economic justice is really at the core of what I most believe. And I think that when we have a kicker that sends money back to those who are often making the highest incomes in the state, that really doesn't comport with the ideals of economic justice when we have these really, really important issues to solve. The last thing I'll say on the kicker is, it's meant to be that we have the most accurate prediction possible, and sometimes that's a little too low and sometimes that's a little too high. But for 10 straight years, we have underestimated the amount of revenue the state is going to get. And so for 10 straight years, we've been returning a kicker back to taxpayers. And I do think it's really important we find ways to modify that, or at least to make sure our predictions are more accurate.
Thank you. What role do you believe the state legislature should play in increasing the housing supply in Oregon?
Yes. So when I was been knocking on doors and I've talked to thousands of voters throughout my district, cost of living comes up all the time, whether it's seniors who are unable to afford the apartment they've lived in for a long time, whether it's young families between childcare costs and housing costs going up. Cost of living came up all the time. And then the other thing that came up all the time was concerns around homelessness in Portland and all the effects of homelessness. And to me, those two things are really connected. And if we can build a bigger housing supply, we are both reducing the cost of living for those of us who are currently housed, and we're going to be able to get more people in our community housed. So I'd like to see both the state directly trying to build housing, and I know that Governor Kotek and the legislature has been working on that. I think a lot of the work there is about implementation and following up and making sure that the ideals of the past policies really get achieved. And at the same time, I'd like to see us make sure that we're streamlining our regulations and the permitting processes and making it easy for new building to happen. If we know that we need more housing and we really are in a housing crisis as a state, we should be doing everything we possible to make it easier to build that housing.
Please comment on any actions you would consider to address the concerns related to the critical energy infrastructure hub on the Willamette River.
Yeah, I love this question because it shows that we're focusing on big potential problems before they become problems that are, all over the news in the same way. And so I'm looking to get a tour of the CEI hub and talk to experts. I think more work I need to do there to learn exactly what the right proposals are. But what I do know is that prevention, whether it's in criminal, systems and public safety, whether it's in healthcare, or in this case, whether it's in, potential natural disasters and the effects of them, prevention is cheaper, it's more effective, and it's a whole lot better for the community than when we're just dealing with problems after the fact when it's already too late. So I love that you're asking this. I think we need to be taking it really, really seriously and doing a lot. And I'm going to be listening to a lot of the experts in that area to figure out what the right moves are. But I'm glad that we're trying to be more proactive in these ways.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chotzen. This concludes our Video Voters Guide and podcast interview of Willy Chotzen, running for Oregon House of Representatives District 46. Election Day is Tuesday, November 5th. Be sure to inform yourself about the candidates and exercise your right to vote. Thank you for your interest.